desire is made to quench a fire that's burning out of control. It's burning out of control.
Hey guys, this is Adam back with Titan in the Deep. Thank you so much for coming back in 2023. I hope you guys had a fantastic holiday and Christmas season, New Year. Hope it was awesome. Sorry I've not been around for the last couple of months. I hope you guys have missed me as much as I've missed you. I had some family stuff, and then all the holidays and everything were kind of crazy, you know. But anyway, Michael, commenter and a follower on our channel, has reached out a while back and asked me to do some tutorial videos for newer players, and that is what we're going to start doing in 2023. I'm going to start talking about some stuff that you don't see a lot about on YouTube. You kind of just have to read the rule book and then go from there. But what we're going to do is today we're going to talk about special strikes in the Middle Earth strategy battle game. Anyway, if you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, please do so. Just down here in the corner, I think this corner, I'm not sure which corner it is because I don't know because my camera's flipped. Anyway, whichever corner, like and subscribe to the channel. I would definitely appreciate it. Help us get to 1,000. That would be absolutely fantastic for you guys. Anyway, we're going to do all 6 special strikes for the Middle Earth strategy battle game today. Hey, so the first special strike we're going to talk about is based off of, you know what, let's talk about how special strikes work. First off, before you start a duel, you can choose if your hero or if your model has a specific weapon type to use a special strike. There are 6 of them in the game. All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is the stab special strike. In order to be able to use stab, you have to have a sword or a dagger. Again, sword or a dagger, you can use the stab special rule. However, there's a caveat to it. Here's how this works. This is a Moria Goblin. I'm not going to get in too close because I get kind of blurry if I get too close to my camera. This is a Moria Goblin. He has a sword and a shield. All right, he's fight 2. This is an Isengard Uruk-hai. Not the best of friends. They tolerate each other because they're both from the orc race. Anyway, to be able to use the feint or the stab special strike, you have to have a sword or a dagger, and you have to have a lower fight value than your opponent. And what stab does is a model that's armed with a dagger or a sword who has a lower fight value at the start of the fight than their opponent, then they can opt to stab. If they do so, they may re-roll 1s in the 2 wound phase if they win the fight. Okay, so again, Moria Goblin right here, this little fella here, fighting an Uruk-hai. Fight 4 Uruk-hai, fight 2 Goblin. He can use stab. So what happens is if they roll dice against each other, if he wins the combat, then the Uruk-hai backs away an inch, and then he gets to re-roll 1s when trying to wound. Cool little special rule. However, if he fails to wound the Goblin, if he stabs, then he has to roll a strength 2 hit against himself. All right, this goes for any model that you use stab and you lose a combat. So before this fight even resolves, before he even moves back, he takes a strength 2 hit. On a 6, he's dead because he has a shield. If he didn't have a shield, we'll say he was just a defense 4, he could die on a 5. So stabbing can be dangerous, but it also has kind of a cool little thing about when you can use it and when not to. Again, when you can use it is the most effective is when you have D5 or higher, because then you're only going to wound yourself on a 6. However, if you are trying to break yourself intentionally, stab with all your models. Every single one of them, because there's a chance that you'll kill off a few extra models and it'll help you break faster. So there is a weird but effective way to do that. Anyway, that's the stab mechanic. It's pretty simple. If you have any questions about it or anything, let me know. And then we will, I'll keep doing each one of these things. They're all pretty simple. There's 6 of them total. So again, that was stab. Hey guys, so the second special strike rule that we're going to talk about is feint. Feint also uses swords and daggers. Okay, so if you want to be able to feint, here's how this works. Again, before the combat actually happens, before the duel roll, you have to say, hey, I'm going to feint with X model. Okay, so if your model has a higher or equal fight to your opponent, here's an example. We have a Lothlorian's warrior with a sword, and we have just a Mordor or a Morannon orc. Fight 3, fight 5. okay, he can elect to feint, which what happens is he will lower his attack by D3. So you roll a D6, and if it's a 5 or a 6, you lower it by 3. 3 or 4, you lower it by 2. 1 or 2, you lower it by 1. Okay, that's pretty much how D6 works. It's technically D3. So you roll a D3 to lower your fight value. However, if the elf wins the combat, he will re-roll 1s in the to wound phase. So it can be really effective. I mean, he has a chance if he... So, I mean, obviously this works really well. If you're playing like the Balrog or Blackgate Chieftain or some really high fight monster or something that has a sword that can feint, like the Balrog, you feint 100% of the time unless you're fighting fight 7, basically. And then still fight 7. I mean, of course, if they strike, you don't. But I mean, if you're fighting against captains or whatever, anything that can't strike, you feint 100% of the time. Because you'll never drop below a fight that is... that's too low for you to win the combat against things that are, you know, not able to strike against you. Anyway, so again, if you have equal or higher fight value than your opponent, you can elect to feint, and that will allow you to re-roll 1s in the wounding roll. Okay, so again, here's a good example: Lothlorien swordsman, warrior against a Mordor Morannon orc. If he wins the fight, if he feints, then he'll lose D3 fight value, which he still has a chance to be higher than him, because even if he drops to 4 or 3, he'll still have the elven weapon and everything ability. So you just kind of have to use your best judgment whenever you use that. But again, if you're playing like something like the Blackgate Chieftain and Isengard Troll with the sword, or the Balrog, you basically feint almost 100% of the time, unless you're fighting against a striking hero or something that's above fight 7. Anyway, that's pretty much it for feint. The third special strike that we're going to talk about for Middle-earth strategy battle game, speaking of big-ass trolls, this, my buddy Ian printed me. This is going to be my new Blackgate Troll Chieftain. He technically has a sword in his profile, and you can't change it since there's only one. He's a named hero. I'm just going to say he has a sword, but this thing looks amazing. Thank you again, Ian, for printing this for me, man. This is awesome. Anyway, so this guy, you'll notice, has a huge freaking mace. We're going to talk about the Bash special strike now. Bash can be used with hammers, maces, and mauls. All right, and this is the third special strike again. So how this works is if your model has a hammer, mace, or maul, then what you do is you're going to attempt to knock your opponent prone rather than do regular strikes to him. Okay, so how this works is both models roll a d6 at the end of the combat. If you win, if you're going to try to, again, remember this, you always have to call if you're doing a special strike at the beginning of combo, or at the beginning of combat, okay? So before the duel roll, you have to be like, hey, I'm going to use Bash with this guy, or all of them, whatever. Anyway, so what happens is at the end of the combat, if you win, then you're going to attempt to bash your opponent. And this troll is strength 7 base. So let's put him up against our little Uruk-hai buddy here, strength 4 base. So what happens is, say I'm going to try to bash this Uruk-hai to the ground, which is completely pointless because he's going to smash him into oblivion regardless, but this is just for the sake of the example. So you both roll a d6, you and your opposing model that you're attempting to bash. Then you add your strength value to the d6 value that you rolled. His strength is 7. His is 4. We'll say he rolls a 1 to go to 8. He rolls a 4 to go to 8 as well. His is equal to or higher. This guy's immediately knocked prone. That works with any model in the game. This is an awesome, awesome, awesome special strike that very few people use, because a lot of people just want to try to kill things. Well, if you're playing the long game against stuff like, well, a troll or something crazy, and you're trying to bash things and knock them prone, this is an awesome, awesome way to do it. It's a great way to knock things off horses. If you can't kill the horse, it's a great way to knock heroes off of mounts, including stuff like the Witch King, because the Witch King is only strength 4. He's not anything crazy. All the wraiths are strength 4. So one awesome thing you can do is, again, if you're trying to knock things off mounts, you just simply roll a d6 and add your strength. Even a simple Moria Goblin at strength 3. We'll say you're fighting the Witch King, and by some miracle, your Moria Goblin has a club, or he has a hammer, It's a 1 point conversion, but whatever. Your Moria Goblin has a hammer, and the Witch King rolls a 3, you roll a 4. You tie him. You don't have to beat his strength, you just have to tie it. Tie or better, you immediately knock him prone. The Witch King is off his Fell Beast from one stupid goblin. That's crazy, but it's completely effective. It actually works. I mean, it's kind of cool that you can actually do that. And it says, even with the bash, that you get to choose, that the player gets to choose the opponent that they attack. So if it's on a horse, or if your opponent, opposing model is on a horse or is just a model, you can go after either one. So anyway, that's kind of cool. I've never seen an FAQ that says any otherwise, so I believe you can choose whichever. Anyway, so that's Bash. That one's pretty straightforward. Again, if you got any comments, questions, let me know, and we'll try to get them knocked out, yeah? The fourth special strike is called Piercing Strike. Piercing Strike, a lot of people believe this is probably the best rule, best special strike rule. I think there's a couple, it depends. I think they're all situational. But Piercing Strike is very, very strong. It's a very effective one. And I'll show you why. Normally, this goblin against this Uruk-hai, okay? This goblin is strength 3. He's D6 with his shield. He's getting +1 to wound because of his two-handed axe. But normally, if you have strength 3 against D6, then you are rolling 6s to wound your opposing model, okay? However, if you have the ability to Piercing Strike, which comes along with only picks and axes can Piercing Strike, then what happens is, if you say, hey, I'm going to Piercing Strike with my goblin before the duel roll, again, remember that, then if I win the combat, the Uruk-hai backs away, I get to add +1 to my strength whenever I am trying to wound. Okay, so he goes from strength, he's a strength 3 prowler suddenly to a strength 4 prowler. What's awesome about that is, normally he would be wounding this guy, if he didn't have a two-handed axe, he would be wounding him on a 6. With the +1 to wound, he goes from strength 3 to strength 4, making his D6 wounding on 5s. Bumps up your chance to wound your opposing model by, almost 17%, which is pretty awesome. Anyway, so Piercing Strike, extremely effective. There is a drawback to Piercing Strike. If you lose the combat with Piercing Strike, you have to roll a D3 and you lose that much defense. So if I roll this normally, this Uruk-hai is wounding this Prowler on a 4 because he's strength 4 against D4. If he rolls a D3 and I lose 2, if I go down to D2, he's wounding him on a 2. Or 3, I'm sorry, a 3, which is crazy. So anyway, yeah, that's Piercing Strike. Again, great thing to use. It's super helpful also when you're trying to break or you're trying to punch through high defense stuff. Obviously, it's not going to be, there's no point in using it on some stuff. Like, for example, there's no sense in using Piercing Strike. If you're strength 3, you don't use Piercing Strike against D7. It doesn't make any sense because strength 3 on 7 is still going to be a 6 to wound. Strength 4 on D7 is still going to be a 6 to wound. However, if it's strength 8, or if it's defense 8, Piercing Strike is a little more effective because you would go from strength 3, because that's the baseline strength across the entire game, basically, strength 3. I mean, stuff like Uruk-hai and, I don't know, like Blackguard or Barad-dûr are all higher, half-trolls are higher strength. Most heroes are all strength 4 or 5. Anyway, so again, how that works is if we'll say you have a strength 3 Minas Tirith warrior, okay, and he's got an axe and he's going against a D8 Iron Hills dwarf, then normally with his strength 3 against the D8, he would be wounding on 6 4s. That's crazy. I mean, everybody hates trying to roll 2 dice to wound. So with the Piercing Strike ability, if you had a Minas Tirith warrior that had that, then his pick or axe would wound a D8 dwarf on just a regular 6. Okay. So anyway, that's pretty much how that works. We'll go to the next one here in just a second. Again, if you have any questions about Piercing Strike, let me know. And Piercing Strike, again, is great for helping you break because you lose 3 defense. If you lose the combat, there's a good chance your opponent's going to kill you. So just to keep that in mind. All right, the fifth special strike in the Middle-earth strategy battle game is called Stun. All right, I love Stun. I think Stun is a fantastic ability that basically nobody uses, but is very powerful. And let me show you why. Okay, so here we've got a Galadrim Stormcaller. Okay. He's an elf wizard. He has, I think he has a staff, and then he also has a elven sword. However, what's cool about this guy is his staff. So if you want to be able to stun something, you need a club or a staff. So any wizard can basically do this with their staff of power. Any shaman, basically, almost all the shamans. There's some like Musger and the Easterlings shaman that has like a spear or something instead of a regular staff. But anyway, how stun works is if you win the duel roll, we'll say, hey, when I'm fighting with this Gladrim Stormcaller, I'm going to attempt to stun your Dane, whatever. If you win the fight against Dane, then instead of striking blows against him, you elect to stun him or attempt to stun him. And what you do is you just roll a single d6. If you get a 5 on any non-monster unit in the game, any non-monster, they are stunned until the end of the following turn. And what stun does is it drops their attacks and their fight value to 1. And it makes their shoot value go to 6+. That's crazy. There's absolutely no drawback to it except you're not wounding. So if you're fighting against something crazy, we'll say the Stormcaller is fighting against Azog, and by some miracle you win the fight. You can elect to stun him. Just bonk, hit him right on the head with your club or your staff. Again, that's the only weapons you can use to do stun, the special strike of stun. You clunk him on the head. Well, if you get a 5 or a 6, that's a 33% chance Azog is stunned for an entire turn. Not just the one you're in, but all of the next one. So he goes from his three attacks at fight 7 down to 1 attack, fight 1. That is crazy. If you can swamp stuff with that, then you can basically make a hero completely useless. Moria Goblins outfight Azog at fight 1. They're fight 2. That's crazy. I mean, so then you can just absolutely just murder things. So it's risky, but again, it's one of those long plays. But there's no drawback to doing stun. Stun is awesome. I freaking love it. The weird thing is like there's not a ton of models in the game that have a club or a staff. Again, almost all the shamans have a staff, which is cool. But very, very few regular warriors do. I think like Sharky's rogues, like some of the ruffians might have clubs. And that's about it. And then I think Moria Goblin, or not Moria Goblins, but Goblin Town Goblins, some of them have clubs or something. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it for stun. Stun is awesome. Oh, the one weird thing about it is that doesn't work the same with monsters. If you try to stun a monster, it's only on a 6 that you can stun something with. But again, 16% chance, we'll say you've got, I don't know, 5 Goblin Town Goblins surrounding a Cave Drake. Cave Drakes are absolutely terrifying, incredible, one of the best monsters for their points in the game. They're fight 6 with 4 attacks, 5 on the charge, monsters charged. Absolutely devastating. We'll say they muff the Cave Drake controller fluffs his roll, okay? You got 5 Goblin Town Goblins around him, and 3 of them have clubs, or 3 of them have clubs, because clubs and staves can stun. You say, hey, these 3 are going to try to stun him. It's going to be hard because you have to throw 6s anyway to wound. So if you stun the Cave Drake, all of a sudden it drops from 4 attacks to 1, fight 1. You can kill that thing after that. That's awesome. I mean, that's just absolutely awesome. It's a very, very effective thing, especially if you got a lot of models around something strong like that. I know you have to get a 6 anyway, so why not try to stun it and then go for the long game, swamp it and kill it, you know what I mean? Anyway, so that's pretty much how stun works. Alright guys, so let's get to the 6th and final special strike with the Middle Earth strategy battle game, and it is called Whirl. To be able to use Whirl, that's W-H-I-R-L, you have to have a model that has a flail, a scourge, or a whip. Pretty simple. You can spin it around your head and try to do damage to everything that's in combat with you, basically. So how this works is pretty simple. A model with a flail, whip, or scourge may opt to whirl, again, before the duel roll. And a model that whirls reduces their fight value to 1. However, any opposing model that is in the fight, if you win, they get to whirl their weapon around and hit every opposing model in the fight with whatever their strength is. This is a converted Blackguard of Barad-dûr with a flail. Blackguard of Barad-dûr are normally Fight 4, Strength 5, D6. We'll say I run him into 2 Warriors of Rohan, who are Defense 5, and I say, hey, I'm going to whirl. Well, I drop to Fight 1. However, the 2 Warriors of Rohan, we'll say they roll a 3 and a 4, and I roll a 5. Well, that means that I get to strike at every opposing model in the fight at Strength 5. That's kind of crazy. You can do this with a lot of warriors. I think it's probably best for something like these guys. But anything that you can back up with spears or pikes essentially has a really good chance of being a very dangerous model to do this to. A lot of models don't have a whip, a flail, or a scourge. You have to convert them. Okay. I mean, there's the Witch King. He has one. Azog has the Witch King has a flail. Azog has a flail. There's a few models here and there. Not a lot of warriors. Again, I think the ruffians from Sharky's Rogues, they have options to get whips. And I think some Goblin Town goblins have scourges. Anyway, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy conversion. Again, you can see this. It adds, to be able to convert weapons, it costs 1 point for warriors, 5 points for unnamed heroes to switch their weapons if it's not in their profile. Obviously, Blackguard of Barad-dûr all have swords. I converted this guy to have a flail, and it's just a fun little thing to do. Anyway, that is all 6 of the special strikes from the Middle-earth strategy battle game. If you have any questions at all about any of them, let me know. And we'll have a discussion about it. Again, I think all 6 of them have their place. Piercing Strike is probably the most used one. Stab and Feint are used a bit. I know Stab is, especially, I play Moria a ton. I use Stab all the time. I mean, absolutely all the time. Anyway, again, that's the special strikes. This is Adam from Titan in the Deep. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. I would sincerely appreciate it. I would love to get to 1,000 subscribers this year. I've had this channel for a little over a year and a half maybe. I think I started it in June of 2021. So it's about a year and a half old. So anyway, I'd love for you guys to help me to get to 1,000 subscribers. Spread the channel. I'm going to continue to make videos for this game. I love this game, love the community, the people in it. I love my Nashville group so much. They are some of the best people I know. Just really, really good human beings. Anyway, would love to see you at some of our tournaments. If you're in Nashville, we have a couple of major tournaments every single year. We have a tournament every single month in our Nashville group. They range from usually about 8 to 30 players. I mean, and we have everything. Good grief. My buddy John, I think, has every single army in the entire game, and he plays almost every army in the game. Anyway, so thanks again for hanging out with me today, guys. You guys have been fantastic. I hope you have an amazing 2023. God bless you and your families. And yeah, like I said, like and subscribe, share the channel. I would appreciate it so very much. Anyway, God bless. Catch you guys soon.